Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you very much for being with us again. In this particular video, we're going to show about chapter 2. But here I wrote some things because I want to explain to you how to actually summarize each of the chapters, each of the sections, and understand it better, remember it better, and be able to present it in a very simplified way to others. We have some material in our Gita Program product, and that it's available in our webpage. So you can download these materials. We have PowerPoint presentations, and also we have Word documents that you can use in your studies individually or in group. But let me tell you a little bit about how we do this. What's the format in which we analyze the Bhagavad Gita in a simplified way. First of all, we concentrate on the title. What is the title of each chapter and why that title is there? Why this is important? Generally, when I present Bhagavad Gita to different people, here in India or in Australia, in Malaysia, or when we are in Mayapur, to Chinese devotees, to Russian devotees, to Latin devotees, one of the things that I do is I ask, what is the chapter title of this particular chapter? And I ask a couple questions, and pretty much everyone or most of the devotees struggle to remember. That's why it's very important, it's crucial that we remember the chapter. Now, I don't want a mechanical memorization, but rather we suggest we have what's called an association process by which you can remember the titles, but linked or associated with a particular topic or theme. So let's do that exercise with this chapter so we understand a little bit the format. For example, chapter 2. Chapter 2, it's called Contents of the Gita Summarized. So, Srila Prabhupada explains, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and many of the acharyas explain that this chapter 2 is the summary of the whole Gita. In the same way that chapter 18 is commented as one of the summaries of the whole book. The way that we analyze it is, let's think of the main theme that it's explained in this particular chapter. As we mentioned in the overview, the main theme in this case is identity. And the example for the whole section, the first section, which involves chapter 1 to chapter 6, is that someone had suffered from amnesia and thus has forgotten everything about himself. And thus he's lamenting suffering, it's perplexed. Chapter 1, we observe the lamentation of Arjuna. Chapter 2 talks about the identity. The main topic of this chapter is who are we and who are we not? Extensively, Krishna and Srila Prabhupada in his purports define what it's the difference between matter and spirit, the difference between the body and the soul. Who are we? Here, Krishna is explaining to us what is our spiritual identity. Okay? So this is the main topic. However, let me tell you about the format. In these questionnaires that I referred to earlier, and they are available in our webpage in the link in the description, you will find the Word documents where we have three questionnaires. One questionnaire divided into three parts. The first part is about a structure. It's like when you go to a suburb, you go to a particular area, and then you know that in the beginning of the suburb you have a bridge, or on the left there is a park, and then you locate yourself. It's like zooming out, like a GPS exercise, so you know where you are. So one of the parts is about the structure, how the chapter begins, how it ends, how many verses it has. Then the second part is about the contents. This is essential, because even if you don't know exactly or you forgot how the chapter begins or ends, you should know what is the content, what is the main theme of this particular chapter. You forgot if it has 20 verses or 70 verses, but you know that the chapter in this particular case is about the identity of the spirit soul. So we have in contents the themes, and also how the theme is divided into different sections. What is that Krishna is talking about in a particular set of numbers of verses. So, and the last part is the connection. What does connection mean? There is a book that I want to refer to, and it's called Surrendered Unto Me by Purijan Prabhu. And in this book, he explains the connections between the different chapters. And that's something that we have done. And he refers to how Srila Prabhupada connects also the different sections of the Gita and the different chapters of the Gita. So we understand that chapter 2, in fact, is a continuation of chapter 1 in the way that Arjuna is lamenting, and then he carries on lamenting. These are just an example. And then Krishna will address that lamentation, although the cause of that lamentation. So we have the structure, how it begins, how it ends, how long the chapter is. The contents, what is the main theme, the prevailing topic that is discussed or presented by Krishna. And what is the connection between the different chapters, so you have a sequence, right? And the last part, which I have put a star there, is that in this particular section of the questionnaires, we want to make the chapter very personal. For example, in chapter 2, a very personal chapter, this is just my experience, or a very special verse, shall I say, it's text number 7. Why? Because in text number 7, Arjuna is asking Krishna for help. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's best for me. Please instruct me. Help me. I am a surrendered soul. I'm a disciple of yours. Please let me know. What should I do? So, we have this format, structure, contents, and connection. Now, we have the same format in questionnaire form for all the chapters. So you have the same 3 sections, 5 questions of each, and then the same questionnaire applies for all the chapters. So at the end of these studies, you will know exactly what is the title and why that title is there, what is the structure of each of the chapters, what is the content, and what is the connection between chapters, and thus you are better located throughout your study of the Bhagavad Gita. Now let's do this, apply this structure with this chapter 2. Contents of the Gita summarized. In essence, it talks about the identity, mostly around 30 verses or so, describing the soul and the spiritual nature of the living entity. So one of the things that we have to observe and when we are studying these chapters is, where are Arjuna's questions? Different chapters have Arjuna's questions in different places. Some of them, most of them, are in the beginning of the chapter. In some chapters, there's no questions presented by Arjuna. And everywhere in the Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna's answers. We will notice that according to our the level of scrutiny that we put into studying Srila Prabhupada's books, and particularly the Bhagavad Gita, there are many questions that come up from Arjuna. And Krishna starts answering, sometimes immediately and sometimes later on in different chapters, about a particular point or concern that Arjuna has raised. And also another important thing is the analogies. What analogies are used? Here in chapter 2 is where we find most of the analogies from the Bhagavad Gita. We have winter and summer, we have the turtle, we have so many, the change of bodies, just like changing of clothes, many analogies. Why analogies are important? Because Srila Prabhupada himself used them for his preaching. So when we remember the analogies, then it's easier for us to understand the different topics that are described in the contents of this particular chapter. So this is chapter 2, a very long chapter, the second longest chapter, 72 verses, as we will see in the structure. It begins with a continuation of Arjuna lamenting about his situation. And then soon after, around verse 11, the Bhagavad Gita starts. And why Srila Prabhupada and previous commentators of Bhagavad Gita, previous acharyas, had said that the Gita starts in text number 11, because that's when we find the word Sri Bhagavanavacha. Remember, Bhagavad Gita means the song of God. And why do we say the song? Because Sanskrit, the language in which Bhagavad Gita was delivered, is sang by Krishna. So, Bhagavad Gita starts in text number 11. In text number 7, Arjuna asks for help. And then we see the sequence of the chapter, how it's manifested. And different things are discussed. Why the contents of the Gita summarized? Because here Prabhupada explains karma, jnana, and bhakti will be presented. In essence, and some questions will also come up. For example, we find in text number 54, we find that Arjuna presents a particular question, very practical. Always Srila Prabhupada said, Gita is a very practical book. And here, Arjuna is presenting a practical question. How does that person look? How does that person walk? What is his language? Basically, all the things that Krishna was presenting, Arjuna wanted a sample, a role model, someone that he can see and check, okay, this person is advanced or not, this person is self-realized or not. Or in other words, we have the chance to also check if we are advancing or not. So, in chapter 2, we find plenty of Krishna's answers to the main cause of lamentation. Arjuna had forgotten why he was suffering, why he had to do, what is his real identity, and Krishna gives a number of verses explaining the essential problem that Arjuna is facing, and that is that he forgot his identity. So in this way, in a very few minutes, we have presented to you a summarized analysis of the Bhagavad Gita. This is less than 10 minutes. So if you take this format, structure, contents, and connection, it's very simple to always remember the main themes, some of the analogies, how the chapter begins, how it ends, what about Krishna's answers in response to Arjuna's questions. And in that way we can understand, we can remember, and most importantly, we can present these to others. So we thank you very much for your time, for your attention, and please continue to follow us in this series of videos, Gita for Everyone, next week with chapter 3. Thank you. Hare Krishna.